My trip to Earth was very interesting. I learned about lots of things. I learned about food. I learned about clothing. And I learned about shelter.
Food, clothing, and shelter? We don't need those things.
But people on Earth do. That's why they're called the basic needs.
Well, tell me about your trip to Earth and about that basic need, shelter. That's called shelter, right?
That's right. It's a house. A house is one kind of shelter, a place where people live. People on Earth live in all kinds of places.
Why do people on Earth need a place to live?
Well, they need it for several reasons. One is for protection from the weather. The walls and roof of a house, for instance, protect the people who live there from wind and rain and snow. People on Earth need protection from the weather, and they don't want to be bothered by animals that live outdoors. And another reason is that people on Earth like to have places of their own where they can be by themselves or just with their families. A place where they belong, where they feel safe and comfortable. Shelter is a basic need.
And this shelter that Earth people need, I suppose it grows right there on the land where they want to live.
Oh no, shelter has to be made. A house, for instance, is made of a lot of parts.
Well then, I guess it's the parts that must grow there, right?
No, all the parts that a house is made of come from somewhere else. Some parts are made and some grow. For instance, most houses need boards. Boards are made of wood, and wood comes from trees. Now, trees do grow. Trees are living things. But people have to do many things to the trees before they can be used to build a house.
Like what, for instance?
Well, trees have to be cut down.
Are they big?
They're the biggest living things on Earth. Then people have to get the trees to places called lumber mills. At the lumber mills, people run the machines that take the bark off the tree trunks. And they run machines that saw them into boards. Then other people have to take the wooden boards away from the mills to where people who need the wood can buy it. And that's just the beginning. Then the wood is carried in trucks and trains. Some of it even travels in ships. One of the places the boards go to is called a lumber yard. People there help other people buy different kinds of wood that they can use for building houses and all kinds of other shelters. Now, wood comes from things that grow.
Yes, you told me.
But all things that houses are built from don't grow. Bricks, for instance, they have to be made. People have to make them.
How do they do that?
Well, they have to mix the materials together to make the bricks. Then people have to load them into trucks and trains so they can be taken to where they'll be used to build a house or other kind of shelter. Like bricks, most of the parts of a house have to be made, like the pipes and the wires and the plasterboards and the paint.
And when all the parts of a house or any other kind of shelter are all brought together, somebody just digs a hole and plants it all, and then the house grows right there. That's not right, is it?
No,
I remember you told me that shelters, like houses, have to be made.
that's right. People have to build a house. It all starts with a plan. An architect has to draw it. Then a person has to hire all the people who are needed to follow the plan and build the house. That's the builder. Sometimes that person is called a contractor. And then the work starts. Someone has to dig out a place for the house to be built. Then workers put in a foundation. It might be concrete. The house will rest on this after it hardens. Then carpenters use boards to put up the frame of the house. Roofers put on the roof. Electricians put in wires so there can be electricity in the house. Plumbers put in pipes so there can be water in the kitchen and bathroom and other places. Duct workers put in ducts for heating and air conditioning. Most shelters need some way of keeping people from getting too hot or too cold. When everything is in its proper place inside, painters paint the insides and outsides of the house. Other people may have to do other kinds of work, but finally the house, or whatever kind of shelter it is finished.
Wow! That takes a lot of work.
Yes, it does. But after the house is built, it's ready for people to live in it. People come to look to see if it's the kind of place they would like to live in. Some people will buy their house or other kind of shelter. Some people will just rent it.
What's that?
They pay the people who own the shelter to let them live there. And then, when people decide a place is the place they want, they usually need other people to help them move in. And then, finally, people will try to make their shelter into a home that makes them all happy to live there.
It sure seems like a lot of work for people on Earth to have shelter. They need people to cut down trees and take them to lumber mills and process them in lumber mills and take the boards to where they can be bought and used. And they need other people to make all the other materials that are needed to build a house. And then they need all those different people doing all those different jobs to put all those parts together and build that house, or whatever kind of shelter they want to make.
Yes, it's a lot of work, and it takes a lot of people, but they have to do it on Earth. Shelter is a basic need, and I've brought you a sample.
A real house?
No, a real house was too big to fit in my ship. This is a house some of their pets use. It's a dog house, but it's just your size.
I like it. It gives me a nice place all for myself. I think I could get used to shelter.